So toxicologists and occupational industrial medical experts, they focus mostly on acute or chronically poisoned compounds with clearly defined biological markers, whereas environmental medicine is looking at people who are just exposed daily to these small dosages of multiple compounds, none of which are at high enough levels on their own to be defined as toxic, but cause nonetheless lots of chronic health issues. So the total load is what we're considering when we're looking at an environmental medicine approach. And so that's a big one I want you guys to think about now that we dive into what is already well elucidated as environmental carcinogens. So the IARC here is a third-party organization that tests for, like, it's non-industry driven, so they don't have industry in their back pocket. And these are the guys that are looking at the International Agency for Research on Cancer. These are the guys that are giving us the balanced information. I'm telling you this because we are now in a battle between the EPA, the IARC, and multiple governmental associations all over the world. IARC is considered sort of the umbrella tier of who's making the calls that are accurate. And what's unfortunate is the industry is pushing hard back against these non-industry driven researchers who are just simply stating the facts and simply stating the data. And so what is confusing to people is when they say, well, my doctor says it's fine, or the EPA says it's fine, we're literally then negating what the research and the science and the data is showing us when we have those conversations, which drives me crazy because this is an organization that is not industry driven, does not make their money from telling people what they want to hear. So this list right here, these bubbles here with the cigarette smoke in the background are what are considered the nine, like there's what are considered the absolute known carcinogens, that there's no more ifs, ands, or buts about it, and that we really shouldn't be having these conversations any further. And yet you will see that these things still drive the engine of our economy in many places in the world. And so there are 9 classes of toxic compounds that I just want to touch base on while we're on this slide and while you look these bubbles over. One of them is dioxins. It's not listed here on this list, but it should be. It's known as a persistent environmental pollutant, sometimes known as a POP. Okay, and it comes from burning processes of any kind. So industrial processes such as chlorine bleaching of paper, cigarette smoking, dismantling of electronic products, the production of herbicides and pesticides. All of the things that create dioxins are driven and moved about through air and water. All right. And the thing that's a problem here is it's the animals that accumulate them into their fat stores. So they're particularly high in dairy products, in animal fat products. And so they're just something to kind of think about. If people are eating dairy products, they need to be making sure they're eating third-party tested, organic, preferably raw, healthy animal pastured products that don't have the ability to accumulate more toxins into their fat. Even eating the good quality, you're still going to get some, but if your terrain is healthy, you should be able to mitigate that. So that's not to say don't eat animal products or dairy products, but it's to know that those are environments that do sequester this. One other thing I want people to know about dioxins before we move on from this particular topic is that it also sequesters in, as we said, the cotton world. So think about your clothing, think about diapers, think about sanitary hygiene products, in particular tampons. So we're taking a known carcinogen and we're placing it up our hoo-ha, or we're putting it up against a little baby's bum, or we're snuggling down with it in our nightgowns every night and spending the majority of our life in these chemical-induced baths that we're exposed to against our largest organ of absorption and elimination. And yet it's something that we know is a compound that's damaging. It's driven by industry. It moves through our water and our air, and it definitely causes endocrine disruption, cancer processes, skin irritation, fertility issues, lowering of sperm counts, autoimmune conditions. They've even been able to see that it's passed down into the fetus as well as the cord blood. And so we know that it is really impactful, and it shows up very much in the breast.